All right, and now, coming to a blue state near you. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Well, they do call it the City of Angels. Yeah, if this is how angels conduct themselves. I love the skateboard. Now, the scenes are all so familiar, aren't they? The Mexican flag flying proudly, the verbal taunts of law enforcement.
Why you covering your face, bro? You trying to hide from the government? We're gonna block this mother.
The printed signs with focus group tested slogans. So tedious. Oh, of course, the masks, as Bill referenced, covering the faces of all the proud protesters. It's also legitimate. Why are they covering their faces? Well, seeing the destruction of the past 72 hours, President Trump has sent in all those Marines that Bill referenced to protect federal buildings in L.A. So rather than thanking the president for helping out, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom blamed Trump for escalating things.
Well, the Marines are stationed nearby, and so we already have the military in our midst. But I really think we need to go back and look at norms and look at what policies and laws actually are, because I think the thing that is challenging in this administration is that you don't know where the line is.
You don't know where the line is. She wouldn't know. She wouldn't know how to get to from A to B if her life depended on it. All you need to know is that Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom simply do not care what happens to L.A. I mean, the Hollywood sign could be burning, Beverly Hills could be burned down, and as long as their views aligned with the views of the protesters, it's okay. Democrats in power would tolerate it. If you're a criminal and you hate Trump, or again, if you're lined up with a liberal cause, the cause du jour, you will be protected somehow, some way. And many of you are asking, a lot of you came up to me over the weekend, who has time to protest? Aren't these people working? And who's really the man or the men and women behind the curtain pulling everyone together here? Well, some of the groups involved include Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights LA, otherwise known as CHIRLA. This is one of the biggies. It's a rabid Open Borders Front organization. It demands amnesty for all 11 million illegals, more like 20 million. What will really burn you up about this group is the fact that over the years, it's received more than $45 million in government grants for its immigrant rights work. Yeah, your money. It's so radical, in fact, that it lost funding from the government more than a year ago. In other words, they were even too crazy for the Biden people. The New York Post cites the PSLAS co-organizers as co-organizers of these anti-ICE actions and riots. They're promising more in the coming months. It's a socialist organization. And then there's the Unión del Barrio. It's spearheading the so-called Community Self-Defense Coalition. It's a network of 50 to 80 groups that train volunteers to identify and block ICE raids. It uses bullhorns to warn migrants. It patrols communities. And it even does what's called self-defense training. We imagine that's defending themselves against law enforcement. Now, these coalitions were reportedly on site during raids and frequently got into it with law enforcement and federal agents. And finally, on the list of 4 or 5, the old standby, Antifa and other far-left elements. Now, of course, civil unrest and violence is their stock and trade, Antifa. And many of those, of course, spray painting the storefronts over the weekend and the vehicles. If you were online, you saw a lot of this. They leave behind the tedious Antifa logo with a circle around it. How clever. You know, they're basically scattered throughout the protests, and they tend to egg people on. Bill talked about the people in the kind of black bloc uniform. That's who the Antifa crowd usually is. So you think about this group that I just listed. This is a great bunch to be associated with, right, if you're a politician? Well, what's insane about this is that the Democrats actually think this works for them. In fact, they think it's a winning formula. Now, remember back in 2020, another blue city devolved into chaos because Governor Tim Walz, thanks Tim, and Mayor Jacob Frey were more interested in understanding the pain of the protesters than restoring law and order and protecting businesses on the ground. And as we all remember, things got totally out of hand and really fast. The thugs who burned down the 3rd Police Precinct, who destroyed businesses owned by the locals, we interviewed a bunch of them at the time in the aftermath. Yeah, these protesters didn't care about George Floyd. They weren't fretting about police brutality. Come on. They exploited a tragic situation to loot and to raise hell. And the agitators, hoping that it would spread to other cities at the time, they worked hard. And remember, it did spread to other cities with deadly results, from Wisconsin to Seattle to Portland to Chicago to New York. We saw it across the line. And also here in D.C. I was actually at one of those protests undercover. And after all of that destruction and the lives lost, you have to ask, what did they accomplish? Oh, nothing. Except maybe some of the race hustlers got rich and the DEI scam got a huge boost. But it's the same situation now with the anti-ICE protests. None of these people, and I mean none of them, not a single one of them, really care about these communities or the plight of migrants. Because if they did, they'd know what a nightmare an open border has been to all people. The cartels got rich and women and children got trafficked. The truth is, the organizers of the chaos, they don't believe that our federal government is legitimate, especially when it's led by Donald Trump. And they do not feel obliged to follow any of our laws, and I mean any of them. And Biden and Mayorkas, they basically tacitly agreed. They opened the border and they gave benefits to 10 million illegal aliens. The goal? Well, made a lot of those protesters happy, right? Those organizations. But the goal was to resettle America with new people in order to transform it completely in ways that you really can't do at the ballot box, at least when you're not that radical, when you're that radical. So what they essentially believe is that all of us need to do penance for the sins of taking this land from Native people, for slavery, for what we did to women, and so on and so forth. And by the way, the penance never ends. The riots are happening because the people and the groups involved know they're going to get away with it. They know that the governor and the mayor are on their side. Notice they don't try this nonsense in states like Texas, in Florida, in Mississippi, in Louisiana, or in Virginia. But with the right political climate, with liberals in charge, they'll eventually find an excuse to create a civil uprising. We're not far from Virginia here. If Virginia voters elect Democrat Abigail Spanberger, the moderate, Democrat, liberal, always votes for the liberals, governor in November, I'm telling you, all you Virginians, all bets are off. This is what you're voting for. And if Republicans lose the midterms, and a year from now, a year and a half from now, this is going to start blowing up everywhere. And House Democrats will begin nonstop investigations into Trump world. And if Hakeem Jeffries is Speaker of the House, he'll encourage more of this stuff with his pronouncements about Trump the dictator. You can see it coming with left-wing chaos, with its Marxist aims, rolling right into 2028. Mark my words, as my late mom used to say. So this is the time for voters to speak up and to put an end to this once and for all. We can't reason with these people. We can only beat them. And I mean beat them badly in the polls. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.